My lowest point was probably when I was sleeping in my car and the realization that I do not have a roof over my head. I do not have a home to go to. And financially, I wasn't able to rent a place. So that was probably my lowest point where I thought, oh hell, what am I going to do now?
Back from Zero, ke lenaneo leo tlisetsang nalane ya ma-Afrika Borwa a ileng a teana le mathata a tjhelete. Empa ba lwana gagaolane molamo wa tshepe hore ba iphumane ba le ka sehlohlolong ho hlola mathata ana.
Molweni. My name is Glenn Sullivan, and although I do have a daytime job, I consider myself a social and political commentator as well. My childhood was a typical white South African growing up in the 70s and 80s with all that kind of security, false as it turned out to be. The house was difficult. I had a very disconnected family, but it came with good education, the expectation of a good future, secure. The path through life would be all set out and almost predetermined in the sense. I had siblings who also were older than me, a lot older than me, and so I spent a lot of time on my own, in my own thoughts, and thinking about the future and life. My parents were, shall we say, typical white South Africans of the day. My mother was a home executive. She didn't work. My dad worked for government, hence there came all the security in that job, and he worked there 49 years and 11 months. He didn't want to do that last month. It wasn't high up in the government. It was a draftsman, which is like government version of an architect. So he retired with a good pension, not much in the way of insurance policies, etc. My parents never spoke about money because essentially they didn't need to. We had this stable job in government. It wasn't like, oh, we have struggled to make ends meet, etc. The house was fully paid for, so the money just got spent on food, etc. And my mind was left to wander to the big wide world out there and became very kind of desiring money and status, etc., which obviously is not ideal. And I've spent a lot of time working through that and how materialism should feature in one's life. When I was young, growing up, there wasn't an entrepreneurial society, so it was expected to be join a company or two for the rest of your life kind of thing. I was good with numbers, so I thought I would land up being an accountant, which I started doing as a career, having studied it at the University of Natal as it was then. The fees then, if I remember, were like about 495 Rand a quarter. So very cheap compared to today. And my dad was able to easily afford it due to the whole system that we were in. I first realized that my life was privileged probably long after apartheid had officially ended, because it was so automatic, it was so ingrained that this is me, this is the society that I live in. So it was probably way in the mid 90s, late 90s, when I started interacting with other races, that I realized that they don't have the same opportunity that I do. I finished my degree in 1987 and then went on to do honours in 1988 and then furthered my studies with a London-based organisation called CIMA in 1990. At the same time, I did national service because it was compulsory. I didn't want to. I'm not exactly the most macho person around. And there were thoughts to escape to Europe, but I could see change was coming. We had a new president as such, and I could tell that apartheid was definitely going to crumble. So I thought, let me just bear it out and stay here. And national service got reduced while I was in to 15 months I served. I had enough of Durban, so I thought, let me move down to Cape Town and try my luck there. I managed to get a job on the first day in the accounting field, and I thought this would be my career for the rest of my life, building my way up in the private sector. Earning my own money to start was great, obviously. My parents had, by that point, had both passed away, so I'd had that minor inheritance from my dad. So money wasn't an immediate concern, but it was good to be responsible on my own, look after myself, and earn that monthly check. Plus, it was a good point in my life because I was living in Cape Town, which I had visited once or twice before and fell in love with the place. And I've always wanted to be responsible on my own. So, yeah. But there was this conflict in my mind. There had to be more to life than being an accountant. The two jobs that I had in the accounting world, the one I was retrenched and the other I resigned from because it was just too boring being an accountant. And there were a couple of years of trying to find myself and before the entrepreneurship path started. The entrepreneurship I had in mind was essentially importing and exporting, excitement, travel, go around the world, etc., etc. My path of entrepreneurship started in 1998 when I had this opportunity to open a fresh cut flower branch in Johannesburg. So I left behind my beloved Cape Town, went off to Joburg. I thought I got nothing to lose, may as well try it there. I had partners lined up and they invited me to join them. They were in Harare, New York, and Cape Town, and I was tasked to set up the branch in Johannesburg.
Ho netefatsa ho fumana kamano tse tsitsitseng kgwebong ya hae e ntjha, ho ile hwa mo tlisetsa menyetla e mengata. Ho iqalla kgwebo ka mora hore a tlohele mosebetsi wa hae wa accounting, ho ile hwa mo nea moholo. Ha re kgutla papatsong, Glenn o re phetela ha batsi ka mathata a ileng a shebana le ona ka mora hore a nke qeto ena. Re a o amohela, o shebelletse Back from Zero. Pele re a papatsong, Glenn o ne a re phetela ka ho tlohela mosebetsi wa hae wa accounting hore a tsebe ho iqalla kgwebo ya malomo. Ha re utlwa ho tswa ho Glenn.
Fortunately for me, Johannesburg is a hub for flowers, as they have a big auction market over there. And so, although having to work hard, I wouldn't say the business came easy, but it did flow. And it was, but I had to go out there and find new clients. I had to go and establish a client base in Johannesburg, as well as around the world. So there was good opportunity, travel overseas, live that kind of life, live comfortably.
So mna no Glenn sadibana ngo-2005 eKapa. I-gazing yaseKapa incinci, so we end up meeting everyone. So saba ngabantu ke ngoku abavanayo, abajayiva bonke, abanwabayo bonke. So udibana nam no Glenn wayengumuntu owayenebusiness yakhe ethengisa flowers, importing and exporting flowers. And wayehlala eGreen Point eKapa. Isababe right and a flatted decent enhle. Waye-afforda ezanto zinhle zimnandi zoba atravelishe overseas for holidays. Enemoto, always soloko enemoto entsha. Throughout ngokela xesha sasidibana. So wayengumuntu waye comfortable ebomini.
But the problem is it's very easy to be hoodwinked by clients in the flowers because they die. If you send a bad batch of flowers, you have no choice but to pass credit. And a lot of times you send good flowers, but the clients would still say, you sent me rotten stuff. You can't prove it because they can't send the flowers back to you because obviously they'd then definitely be dead. So you had to you had to be on your toes, and a lot of times it's very common in the flower industry for clients just not to pay. You can't chase after them, you can't go to attach the goods that you sent them because the flowers are then gone. But there was a natural attrition for clients. They went to my competitors. Other clients I couldn't sell to anymore because of their bad paying, etc. So I knew probably after about 8 years that this business was not gonna survive, and I started looking for other opportunities, which were very difficult because you're now talking the mid-2000s. The white skin wasn't in demand because of BE, etc. Plus I'd been out of the corporate life for quite a while, so finding a job wasn't easy. And also I had burnt myself out in flowers because that little extra stress that you have because of these things dying. I felt that I'm on this planet once, I need to do something else. I need to experience other things. So late 2000s, I knew things were coming to an end in the flower industry. The process of closing the business down, thankfully, was relatively straightforward, because by the time I closed the doors for the last time, I was only down to a couple of clients. And so I said to them, I'm not going to supply you anymore. And because I had evolved as a person a lot, and because I had built up some business and life experience, I thought, no problem, I'll sail into a job pretty easy. And that proved to not be the case. Going into entrepreneurship didn't quite turn out as I planned, because it is you don't have that foundation underneath you, that stability of a large corporation or a government job. Fortunately, I'd had a little capital saved from the business, so I was able to keep a lifestyle going, but obviously not reduced. I moved to a cheaper place rent-wise, but I still kept my cars going. Still kept my policies going, medical aid, etc. And I was confident I was going to get a job out there somewhere. So I was sending off my CV, but I just wasn't able to get any response. I didn't even get called to an interview. So after about a year and a half, the money was starting to run out. So I thought, I've got to do something. I swallowed my pride. And the place that I used to hang out restaurant-wise in Cape Town, I asked them if I could be a waiter. So from going overseas 2-3 times a year, my life had turned into, what salad dressing would you like with your salad? I worked as a waiter for about 15 months, until again I burnt myself out. It was fun. I enjoy interacting with people. It was a tough place to work though, physically and mentally. And after about 15 months, I thought, no, let me just bite the bullet and walk out here and look for something else.
And waphela ke ngumuntu ofuneka eyofuna imisebenzi ke ngokwezindaweni from being someone who actually employed people and to now being the one who's actually looking for employment.
Working as a waiter, thankfully I made just enough money to pay the car off. I was fortunate enough to stay in a place where I didn't have to pay rent. It was a friend who had a second house that he wasn't occupying. But I realized that I'm going to have to somewhere along the line look for better income, because the money was still running out.
Yayingabiyo issue into yemali. You know that comfort yoba if ufuna ukwenza into you don't have to think very hard. So wayingumuntu wayekwazi uba mhlambi kusihambile ibill ayizuba into ezaba stress uzawuveske abhatale, like wayenalo comfort.
Up to that point I had a very good credit record, and I can advise everybody to maintain a good credit record as much as possible. So I was able to, for example, get a bank overdraft, which I survived on a lot of the time. But that wasn't a balance that was creeping up. Each month I had to owe the bank a lot more. And also, because of my good credit record, I had credit cards that I had a healthy bank credit limit with. And every now and again I'd phone them and say, please increase the credit limit. And banks, in their stupidity, would say, fine. Yeah, and they would increase it. So my debt was increasing each month, but I was still able to maintain the basics of my life, the car, the medical aid, etc. There wasn't any travel or overseas adventures at all. Between the wait and my next job, I went through mental hell because I thought something has to come along. It got to the point where I was sleeping in my car. After waitering, towards the end of the waitering job, I would literally walk out the restaurant and go and sleep in my car. Following day, I would go to the gym, because I'm still able to have a gym membership, shower, drive around, etc., and then go back to work. What happened then was my social circle had gone way beyond white people, which is now 2000s, and a black woman, who I call my mama now, she was the mother of a good friend of mine. She said, Aibo, no, you're not going to be sleeping in your car. You're going to come stay with us. No questions asked.
Afike kum endlini enestress uba mama ndicebisa nawe ndithi mna yintoni athi ucela uGlenn azohlala apha endlini. Ndithi ke mna ke no, it's fine. uGlenn wandibalisela ngepast life yakhe uba wayekahle enezinto zakhe, but ke kuba ubomi buyatshintsha, batshintsha ubomi, so wasokola, but ke ngoku uyazipick up ngoku. uGlenn yena wacinga into uzohlala iveki, nge-weekend athi uAnele uthe uGlenn uyahamba mandi, ndithi uyaphi, uyohlala phi, because akaphangile, akanandawo. So endapha ke ngoku uGlenn ehlala nathi ngoku since 2010.
This lady is a year older than myself. Growing up black in the Eastern Cape, moving to Cape Town, she knew what apartheid and the negative side of it meant to her. That didn't factor in at all. She saw her in me humanity, and she took me in no questions asked, and that gives me future hope for this country.
Ka mora ho putlama ha kgwebo ya hae, bophelo ba Glenn bo ile ba fetoha haholo. Ho a ileng a tlameha ho lekola maemo a hae a tjhelete. Ho fumana tulo Easterfear, ho ile ha mo nea monyetla wa hore a lokisa bophelo ba hae a iketlile. Ha re khutla papatsong, Glenn o re phetela ha batsi. Re a o amohela, o shebelletse Back from Zero. Lenaneo le ikemiseditseng ho hlahloba dikamano tsa ma-Afrika Borwa le tjhelete ya bona. Ka jeno re etetswe ke Glenn Sullivan, ya re phetelang ka hore ho lahlehelwa ke kgwebo ya hae ho fetotse bophelo ba hae jwang.
Living in Easterfear, thankfully there were no strings attached. I didn't have to pay rent there.
Ekuqaleni oyeqala ufika abantu bane-perception bomlungu nemali, yabo. So becinga into yoba is a rich guy. Becinga into yoba mhlawumbi as a result one time wathi waphansi wahijackwa ngenxa yaloo nto. But bayede bamqhela because uGlenn ungumuntu othethayo osweet. Bamqhela bazambuza namhlanje, bayamkhumbula because ungumuntu obubbly.
My support structure at the time was not from the family. My parents had obviously been deceased for a long time. My brother was deceased, and I had a sister living in England. And although I'm close to her, we were disconnected as well. We didn't talk that often. I swallowed my pride and asked my sister in England to loan me some money, which she did. Fortunately, pound-rand exchange rate, she didn't have to send a lot of pounds, and I got a huge comfortable chunk of rands. So I thought, let me set myself up in my own place now. I had the use of a card due to a moonlighting job that I was doing, managing an Uber fleet. So I thought, this is it. I'm going to set myself up, and life is going to be good from that point onwards. But it didn't, again, turn out that way. The fleet that I was managing, the two partners involved had a major fight between each other. And I thought, because I was earning imali, I thought, let me just rather walk away. There's too much stress. The owners of the place where I was staying were black, and they let me build up 8 months rent arrears. Again, it's hope for the future because humanity, etc., etc. COVID came along. I gave up my job. I moved out in the place. I moved in with my friend and struggled to find another job, and it was only earlier this year through connections. A lot of the times it's the only way you can get ahead. It's not what you know, it's who you know, and it's been this year that I have been in a very stable job, stable company, living on the premises where I work, which has its advantages as well. My relationship with my black mama is still strong. I phoned her the other day and I said to her, when are you inviting me to lunch? She said, Aibo, I do not invite you. You just rock up here, please. So we're still in touch. I still see the family, not as often as I would like. So we're still very solid, and I know I can count on her if I need to.
Ndimfonele last week, ngamjika ngathi ngoba awusezi unokucinga ntoni. Uba ufike ndifile ozothini? Zokhala? No, Mama, I was in Joburg. I said, I know you were in Joburg. but why ungezi endlini? Xa ndimbona namhlanje ndimbone emhle kakhulu and indenze very happy loo nto leyo.
So ngoku uGlenn since eqale ubomi bakhe ukutsha ungumntu ke ngoku oyiqonda imali uba you know you need to plan, you need to budget, you need to try and find cheaper ways of doing things.
My relationship with money back then, starting my own business, was very much come and go. Money goes in, money goes out. My relationship with money now is plan for the future. Save if you can, get policies if you can.
uGlenn ngoku ungumntu or content in that he has a better understanding. He values life a whole lot more, and he has found ways of actually appreciating just the small things ebomini. Ungumntu who's a whole lot calmer than what he used to be.
Into endifundile kuGlenn uyabekezela, uhamba uyinto yonke like aka-act as ungumntu omhlophe abantu abamnyama bajongele phansi. Glenn is a person uphila kweli xesha langoku, so kumnandi nje uba noGlenn phakathi kwethu. Ngoku ndiyavuya because he's picking up his life. Uzobuyela kulaa Glenn wayenguye eqala, so he's going to be Glenn again.
At the moment, I would say I'm in a very good space emotionally because I've been to hell a couple of times, but I've bounced back. The one bit of advice I can give everybody in terms of life is, we all know it, we've heard it 1,000 times, but never, ever, ever give up. There is always a tomorrow if you believe in yourself, be honest with yourself, and work damn hard and believe that you have a reason to be on this earth.
Glenn o ithutile ho hongata ho tswa ho kgolo ya hae. Mme pale ya hae e re bontsha hore botho bo ka re thusa ho hlola mathata ao re ka shebanang le ona re sa lebella.